Weeks had passed since the first seeds had sprouted in the valley. The small green shoots had grown into strong plants, their leaves stretching wide to catch the light of the twin suns. Ethan moved among them with practiced care, checking the soil, watering where needed, and carefully tending each row. The Zithera had begun helping, some hesitantly, others with quiet fascination. The queen watched from a distance, her golden eyes fixed on the human. For the first time, she did not approach with suspicion. Instead, she observed her wings folded calmly. She had seen his patience, his careful hands, and the growth of life from nothing but small seeds. She had tasted the harvest, seen the council begin to learn, and felt the stirrings of change within her people. "You have worked well, human," the queen said one morning as she walked toward him. Her voice carried authority, yet there was respect in it now. "Your methods have shown strength beyond what I expected. You have done more than plant crops. You have planted ideas." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. It is only through your willingness to watch and to learn that this could succeed." The queen's eyes softened slightly. "I admit, I was angry when I first saw your seed in the soil. I thought it an insult. But now I see it differently. You have shown me that strength is not only in taking, it is also in giving and protecting life." The council members watched silently. Many of the younger Zithera buzzed softly among themselves. They had been learning, experimenting, and helping Ethan. The older members, initially skeptical, now nodded with cautious approval. The seed of change had taken root in their minds as surely as it had in the soil. Ethan smiled faintly. "Your people have a great gift already, strength and courage. Farming only adds another layer. It does not replace what you are. It complements it." The queen studied him for a long moment, then raised her staff. "Very well. You shall remain here, human, not as prisoner but as honored guest. Teach us. Show us this way of life that does not take, but gives." Ethan's heart lifted. This was more than he had hoped for. He had come as an explorer, expecting to observe, maybe report back to Earth about alien life. Instead, he had become a teacher, a bridge between two worlds. In the days that followed, the valley changed more than just in appearance. More plots of soil were cleared, and the Zithera began planting more seeds under Ethan's guidance. The young Zithera learned quickly, discovering how soil could be enriched, how water could help growth, and how sunlight could be used efficiently. The older council members supervised with caution, but even they could not deny the results. The food was real, nourishing, and plentiful. The queen returned often, walking among the plants with her guards. She sometimes touched a leaf, her golden eyes reflecting curiosity. Occasionally, she would ask Ethan questions about Earth, about humans, and about the ways of life that allowed them to thrive across countless worlds. "You say your people spread across many planets?" the queen asked one afternoon, watching Ethan check the soil. "Do they all grow life as you do here?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. Humans learn to work with their world, farming, building, creating. These are ways we survive, ways we make our homes. Strength is important, but creation is just as important. That is what I want to show your people." The queen considered this. Creation as strength? It is a strange idea, but perhaps not wrong. Perhaps it is time for the Zithera to learn another kind of power. The young Zithera buzzed nearby, listening intently. "Human, when I touch the soil, it feels alive. I did not know land could be like this. We always took, but now we give care, and it gives back." Ethan smiled. "That is the secret. The land is alive. Treat it well, and it will help you. Take without care, and it will fail you." As the weeks passed, the valley became a thriving garden. The plants grew taller, some producing fruits and vegetables, others grains and beans. The air smelled sweet and rich. The twin suns reflected off the crystal towers around the valley, but now the green of life stood out more than the glitter of minerals. The queen walked among the crops one morning, her golden eyes scanning the rows. She reached out and touched a leaf gently. Her wings shimmered softly. For the first time, she spoke to her council not with command, but with suggestion. Look at what we have grown. It is not a threat. It is nourishment. It is life. Perhaps we have limited our strength by seeing only what we take. Now we see what we can give and what the land can give in return. The council buzzed quietly. Some older members were reluctant, but the younger Zythera spoke excitedly among themselves, sharing ideas, asking questions, and experimenting with planting new seeds. The queen had never imagined that a human could change her people so deeply. Ethan worked alongside them, guiding, teaching, and encouraging. He showed them how to rotate crops to keep the soil healthy, how to collect seeds for the next planting, and how to store food for the coming seasons. Slowly, the Zythera began to understand. Strength was not only in force, it was in patience, in care, and in collaboration. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Ethan and the queen stood overlooking the valley. The air was cool, and the green of the plants glowed softly in the fading light. You have done more than I imagined, human, the queen said quietly. You have changed the land, yes, but also the minds of my people. They speak of hope for the first time. They speak of patience and growth, and they are learning. Perhaps humanity has wisdom we have never known. Ethan bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty, but it is not just me. It is the people here who choose to learn, to help, and to see a new way. Your willingness to watch, to trust, is what made this possible. The queen looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Perhaps the Zythera will survive and even thrive because of this. You have given us more than food. You have given us knowledge, patience, and hope. I do not take lightly the gift you have offered. Ethan smiled softly. That is all I wanted, to share a little of what humans know. To show that strength can be more than force, that life can be nurtured and respected, and in return it will help you. The queen turned to the council. We will continue this work. Human, you are no longer a stranger or intruder. You are our teacher, our guide. You have shown the Zythera a new path, and for that, you have my respect. The council buzzed with approval, and even the older Zythera, who had been skeptical, at first nodded. The young ones hovered excitedly, already discussing what seeds to plant next and how they could grow even more food. Ethan looked across the valley, seeing the fruits of patience and care. It was more than just the plants. It was the people, the culture, and the bond forming between them. Humanity's simple act of planting a seed had grown into something far greater. The queen stood silently beside him, her wings folded calmly. Your seed has changed my world, human. It is a small thing, yet it carries great meaning. Perhaps this is the start of something more, between your kind and mine. Ethan nodded. I hope so. One seed can change a valley. Many seeds can change a world. And perhaps, together, we can learn to grow more than food. We can grow understanding, trust, and hope. The queen's golden eyes glimmered. Then let it be so. Let the Zythera learn, and let humanity teach. And let this valley be the proof that growth is strength, and life is the greatest gift of all. And in that moment, the bond between human and alien, between seed and soil, had begun. One small act of care had started a change that could last for generations. A change born not of force but of hope. Ethan knew the work was just beginning. There would be challenges, questions, and mistakes. But now, with trust earned, respect given, and life thriving, he saw the future clearly. Humanity had not only touched the soil of another world, it had touched the hearts and minds of an alien race. And that, he realized, was the greatest harvest of all. The first week at the academy passed in a blur of introductions, lectures, and orientation events. For Ethan, everything felt like a whirlwind. He was still getting used to seeing dozens of alien species walking through the same hallways. Some had glowing eyes, some had feathers, and some didn't even breathe air the same way humans did. But what made his days truly unusual was Lyra. Everywhere Ethan went, Lyra was there too. She walked with him to the dining hall, sat beside him in lectures, and even waited when he stopped to chat with other students. Some people gave strange looks, but Lyra didn't care. She moved with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was and what she believed in. Ethan had never met anyone like her. One morning, Ethan tried to explain Earth breakfast to her. He placed a tray of scrambled eggs, toast, and juice in front of her. Lyra studied it like it was a puzzle. So humans eat bird eggs? Cooked in heat? Yeah, Ethan said, taking a bite. It's normal, full of protein. Lyra poked the eggs with her fork. On Kethar, we would call this food for the weak, but she tasted it and paused. Her golden eyes widened slightly. This is good. Ethan grinned. See? Told you. She nodded once, as if acknowledging a serious truth. Perhaps humans are stronger than they appear if this is their food. Ethan laughed. Trust me, there are much stranger things. Wait until you try pizza. The cultural exchange worked both ways. Later that same day, Lyra showed Ethan one of her traditions. She stood in the middle of their room holding two curved sticks that looked like weapons but were carved with delicate designs. This is called a bonding duel, she explained. Not to fight, but to test rhythm. Two partners move together. If they succeed, it means their bond is strong. Ethan frowned. You mean like sparring? Yes, but not to harm, to understand. She handed him one of the sticks. Ethan held it awkwardly. I've never done this before. Lyra stepped closer, raising her stick. Then you will learn. Follow my moves. The duel began slowly. She struck gently, and he blocked clumsily. She turned, and he almost tripped, trying to copy, but her voice guided him. Balance, step steady, eyes forward. After a few minutes, Ethan found himself moving in rhythm with her. The sticks clashed softly in a repeating pattern, almost like a dance. When they finally stopped, Lyra gave a small nod. Better than I expected. Your movements are untrained, but your spirit does not break. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead and chuckled. Thanks, I think. To bond with me, Lyra said seriously, you must learn our ways. Just as I will learn yours. Ethan met her gaze and realized she wasn't joking. To her, this mattered deeply. And strangely enough, he felt honored. As the days went on, Ethan noticed how different their views of the world were. When he told her about human jokes, she didn't understand at first. So you say words, but you do not mean them? Why would anyone do that? She asked one evening. It's called sarcasm, Ethan explained. It's meant to be funny. Lyra stared. To lie for humor? Strange. Not lying, just playing with words. She tilted her head, clearly, unconvinced. Yet later, when Ethan dropped his pen during study and muttered, Great job, genius, she actually smirked. That is sarcasm, yes? She asked. Ethan grinned. You're catching on. But it wasn't all easy. The culture clash sometimes caused tension. During a group project, Ethan wanted to brainstorm casually with classmates, throwing around ideas. But Lyra became frustrated. Why do humans waste time with guesses? In my world, we choose a plan and act. Because sometimes the best idea comes from trial and error, Ethan replied. We think outside the box. There is no box, Lyra said firmly. They argued quietly until Ethan sighed. Maybe that's the point. You see things one way, I see them another. Together, maybe we can find a better solution. Lyra looked at him for a long moment before finally nodding. Perhaps you are right. Other students began noticing the unusual pair. Some were curious, some were amused, and some whispered behind their backs. One afternoon, while Ethan was in the library, a human student leaned closer and asked, So, is it true your roommate claimed you? Ethan felt his cheeks heat. Yeah, kind of. It's a cultural thing. The student smirked. Sounds like she owns you. Before Ethan could reply, Lyra's voice cut in from behind. He is not owned. He is honored. The student blinked, startled. Lyra's golden eyes burned with pride. To stand beside a Cathari is no small thing. Do not insult him. The student quickly muttered an apology and left. Ethan sighed. You really don't have to jump in every time. Yes, I do, Lyra said simply. That is what claim means. Your honor is mine. My honor is yours. Ethan shook his head but smiled. You're impossible. And you are human, she said, almost like it was a compliment. One evening, while walking across campus, a mysterious alien student approached Ethan. The alien had smooth gray skin and deep black eyes that seemed to shimmer faintly. You are the human who was claimed, the alien said softly. Ethan hesitated. Yeah? The alien leaned closer. Be careful. To be claimed by a Cathari is not a small matter. Some will not like it. Some will see you as a weakness. Or a target. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? But before he could ask more, the alien slipped away into the crowd. Lyra, who had been a few steps behind, caught up. What did that one say to you? Ethan glanced around, but the alien was gone. Nothing, just something about people not liking us. Lyra's expression hardened. Ignore it. Words mean nothing unless backed by strength. But Ethan couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. That night, back in their room, Ethan sat on his bed thinking. He looked at Lyra, who was sharpening her blade under the lamplight. You really believe in this bond thing, don't you? He asked. Lyra looked up. Of course. My people fought for centuries until we learned the value of choosing a partner. To stand beside us alone we fall. Together, we endure. Ethan nodded slowly. I get that. It's just, I'm still getting used to the idea. Lyra studied him for a moment, then said quietly, You are human. You adapt. That is what makes you different from many. Ethan blinked at her words. Different? Special? He wasn't sure what she meant, but something in her tone made him feel stronger. A few days later, the Academy held a cultural fair. Each species displayed food, art, and traditions. Ethan and Lyra walked through the crowded plaza, watching students laugh and share stories. At one booth, Lyra stopped and picked up a small carved stone. This symbol means unity, she explained. Two become one, and together they are stronger. Ethan smiled. That's a good message. She looked at him with steady golden eyes. It is our message. You and I. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He hadn't asked for this bond, but now, he wasn't sure he disliked it. As the sun set, the plaza lights glowed softly. Students of every species gathered around a stage where musicians played instruments from across the galaxy. Humans clapped, aliens hummed, and even Lyra tapped her foot slightly to the rhythm. Ethan watched her, surprised. You like the music? She nodded slowly. It is pleasant. It reminds me that even across worlds, there are things we share. Ethan leaned back on the bench, smiling. Yeah, maybe this whole program actually works. Lyra looked at him. It will work, because we will make it work. And for the first time since he arrived, Ethan believed it. But in the shadows of the plaza, the gray-skinned alien from before watched them quietly, eyes narrowing. The weeks at the academy grew busier. Classes filled with strange theories, alien languages, and new technologies kept Ethan awake late into the night. Yet the biggest challenge was not the lessons. It was the feeling that something strange was happening in the background. Ethan first noticed it in the engineering labs. He was working with a group of students when the professor announced that a set of high-energy crystals had gone missing. They were rare and dangerous if handled poorly. The professors assured everyone the situation was under control, but whispers began spreading through the campus. Later, a strange message appeared on Ethan's data pad. It wasn't from any of his contacts, just a line of text, written in a foreign code. The bond makes you a target. Ethan stared at it confused and uneasy. He didn't know how it got there. He deleted it quickly, but the words stayed in his mind. Lyra noticed his silence at dinner. You are thinking too much, she said, cutting into a plate of roasted vegetables. Maybe, Ethan admitted. He hesitated before speaking again. Have you noticed anything weird happening? Stuff going missing? Strange messages? Lyra's golden eyes sharpened. What messages? Ethan explained about the line that had appeared on his datapad. Lyra listened carefully, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she leaned closer. This is no small thing, she said quietly. Someone watches you. Because of me. Ethan frowned. But why? I'm just a student. Lyra shook her head. Not just a student, you are claimed. That makes you part of my bond. My enemies may see you as a way to strike me. Her words sent a chill through Ethan. He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew she was probably right. A few nights later, Ethan woke to the sound of a faint hum. At first he thought it was just the dorm machinery, but then he noticed Lyra was awake too. She stood at the window holding a small device in her hand that glowed softly. What's that? Ethan asked sleepily. Lyra turned, surprised. She hesitated, then answered. A transmission from home. Ethan sat up. Why didn't you tell me before? Because it was not your burden, Lyra said firmly. She looked at the device again. My people face trouble. A rival faction grows strong. Some of them send agents even here to disrupt peace between our worlds. Ethan felt his stomach twist. So the missing crystals, the strange message. Connected, Lyra said with certainty. I wanted to keep you away from this, but now it is clear. You are involved already. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Great, just what I needed. Homework, exams, and interstellar conspiracies. Lyra almost smiled. You take this lightly. That is good. Humor is strength. But Ethan didn't feel strong. He felt caught in something much bigger than himself. The next day, the academy held a science exhibition. Students from different species displayed their projects. Ethan tried to focus on his group's work, an energy converter, but his eyes kept drifting to the crowd, searching for the gray-skinned alien who had warned him before. And sure enough, he saw him at the edge of the hall, watching silently. Ethan's chest tightened. He excused himself from his group and walked toward the alien. Why do you keep following me? He asked. The alien's black eyes shimmered faintly. Because you do not understand the danger you are in. The Cathari bond is sacred but also powerful. Enemies of her people will use you. They will break you to break her. Ethan swallowed. Then why tell me? What do you want? The alien leaned closer. Survive. Or be ready to lose everything. Before Ethan could ask more, the alien slipped into the crowd and vanished again. Lyra appeared at his side moments later, her eyes sharp. What did he say? Ethan hesitated but decided not to hide it. He said, they'll try to use me to get to you. Lyra's jaw tightened. Then he speaks truth. I feared this. She looked at Ethan with intensity. Listen to me, human. If danger comes, you must not run. You must stand. That is the only way. Ethan met her gaze and nodded slowly. I'll try. That evening, Ethan returned to his dorm feeling uneasy. Lyra was silent, sharpening her curved blade as usual, but her movements were sharper, faster than normal. He could feel the tension in her. Finally, he spoke. Do you trust me? Lyra stopped sharpening and looked at him. Why do you ask? This? Because, Ethan said carefully, I keep hearing that I'm a weakness, that I'm just baggage. But if I'm going to stand beside you like you say, you need to trust me too. For a moment, Lyra didn't answer. Then she placed the blade down and walked closer. She knelt slightly so her eyes were level with his. I claimed you, she said softly. That means more than you know. I would not do so if I did not see strength in you. Do not doubt that. Ethan felt his chest tighten. Her words carried a weight that felt heavier than any promise he had heard before. The hidden threat finally showed itself during the weekend festival. Students filled the central plaza, watching performances and tasting food from across the galaxy. Lights glowed in the night and music echoed through the air. Ethan was beginning to relax, laughing at a human band trying to play alien instruments, when he noticed a group of hooded figures moving through the crowd. Their steps were too focused, too precise. "Lyra," he whispered. She followed his gaze instantly. Her hand moved to the hilt of her blade. "Stay close." Before Ethan could ask what was happening, one of the hooded figures pulled out a device. A sharp blast shook the plaza as smoke filled the air. Students screamed and scattered in panic. Ethan coughed, trying to see. He felt Lyra's strong hand grab his arm, pulling him behind a pillar. "They are here," Lyra said, her voice low, but steady. "The enemy." Through the smoke, Ethan saw the hooded figures moving toward the stage where the Academy's leaders were seated. But one figure broke away and headed straight for him. Ethan's heart raced. "Why me?" "Because you are mine," Lyra growled. She stepped in front of him, blocking the path. The attacker lunged, but Lyra moved like lightning. Her blade flashed, knocking the weapon aside. The clash rang loudly through the chaos. Ethan stumbled back, but something inside him refused to just hide. He grabbed a piece of metal pipe from the ground and swung it clumsily at the attacker's legs. The figure staggered, giving Lyra an opening. She struck hard and the attacker fell. Lyra turned to him, eyes blazing. "Good. You did not run." Ethan panted, gripping the pipe tightly. "Guess I'm learning from you." The smoke began to clear, and security forces rushed in, pushing the attackers back. The students were guided to safety, but the tension remained heavy in the air. As they walked back to their dorm, Ethan felt exhausted but strangely alive. He had faced real danger and hadn't frozen completely. Lyra glanced at him. "You see, now, this is why the bond matters. They come for you, but together we fight them back." Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get it now." But deep inside, he wondered if this was only the beginning. If the enemy had attacked once, they would surely try again, and he wasn't sure if he was ready. Yet when he looked at Lyra's steady golden eyes, something inside him whispered, maybe he could be. The day after the attack, the academy was tense. Security drones hovered over the campus, scanning the skies, and professors urged students to stay alert. Ethan felt restless. The threat was no longer distant. It had reached them, and he couldn't ignore it. Lyra, however, seemed calm. She moved through the corridors with her usual precision, eyes scanning constantly for anything unusual. Ethan followed her closely, trying to match her focus. "You need to be ready," Lyra said, her tone quiet but serious. "They will not stop." "I'm ready," Ethan replied, though he wasn't entirely sure. "I just don't know what I can do." Lyra paused and looked at him sharply. "You already did something yesterday. You stood. That is what matters. Humans have strength we often underestimate." Ethan swallowed. "I hope you're right." That afternoon, the academy held a strategy meeting. Students and faculty gathered in the main hall, which had been reinforced with energy shields after the previous attack. The principal, a tall alien with shimmering scales, addressed the group. "We face enemies who seek to destabilize peace between worlds," the principal said. "Our priority is safety and unity. But we must also be prepared to act. Students with skills and courage like the Cathari and their bonded companions are our first line." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. Lyra's hand brushed his as they walked toward the center. "You are ready," she whispered. He nodded, gripping the strap of his backpack tightly. Later, in the training grounds, Lyra began teaching Ethan more advanced defensive techniques. "Your movements are good," she said, demonstrating a spinning strike. "But you must anticipate, not just react." Ethan tried to follow, swinging a training stick against her blade. Sparks flew as they clashed. "Balance," she reminded. "Breathe. Trust yourself." Ethan focused, remembering the bonding duel from the first week. Slowly, his movements became smoother. He blocked her strikes and even managed a counter that surprised them both. "Better," Lyra said with a small nod. "You are learning fast." Ethan grinned. "Thanks for teaching me." Lyra's golden eyes softened slightly. "You earn respect by effort, not by chance." For the first time, Ethan felt like he was not just standing beside her. He was becoming someone who could face danger. That evening, Ethan noticed unusual activity near the perimeter of the academy. Shadows moved in the distance, and small energy pulses flickered across the forest line. "Lyra," he whispered, tugging her sleeve. "Look over there." She followed his gaze and nodded. "They are testing us. A diversion. They want to see our response." Ethan felt a surge of fear but also determination. "So we fight back?" "Yes," Lyra said simply. "Together." They moved through the grounds, Ethan staying close as Lyra scanned for traps. When they reached the edge of the forest, two hooded attackers emerged, wielding energy daggers. Ethan froze for a moment, heart pounding. Lyra stepped in front of him. "Stand beside me," she ordered. He gripped a nearby branch as a makeshift weapon, recalling her lessons. "Okay, I can. Do this." The attackers lunged. Lyra's movements were fluid and precise, deflecting each strike with ease. Ethan hesitated at first, but then he remembered her words. "Anticipate, don't react." He swung the branch, hitting the attacker's arm and causing him to stumble. Lyra nodded approvingly. "Good. Now strike with intent." Ethan lunged forward, tapping the second attacker's leg. The coordinated attack forced them to retreat. When the dust settled, Lyra looked at him with pride. "You are human. You adapt. That is why you survive." Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. "I think I'm starting to understand the bond. It's not just about me being protected. It's about standing with you." Lyra's golden eyes glimmered. "Exactly. Together we are stronger than they imagine." Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra worked tirelessly. They set traps around the campus perimeter, trained with other students, and shared strategies for defending the academy. Each day, Ethan grew more confident, learning to anticipate attacks rather than just reacting. At night, they reviewed the events, discussing what had happened and what could happen next. "You are improving," Lyra said one evening as they sat on the rooftop watching the stars. "Your mind thinks in ways we Cathari do not expect. That is your strength." Ethan smiled faintly. "I guess humans have some skills worth noticing." Lyra tilted her head. "Not guess. You have shown me already." For a moment, silence filled the air, broken only by the distant hum of the city. Ethan felt a strange sense of pride. He was no longer just a human caught in danger. He was part of something bigger, part of a team that could face threats head-on. Then came the warning that changed everything. A sharp encrypted message arrived on Lyra's device. "The faction moves closer. They will strike within the week. Be prepared." Lyra's expression darkened. "They know our defenses now. They will attack more aggressively." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "So it's coming. Soon?" "Yes. And we must be ready to act." He swallowed. "I'm ready. If you're ready, I'm ready." Lyra studied him, then gave a small nod. "Good. That is all I need to know." The following day, during practice, Ethan noticed the gray-skinned alien from before, watching them from the trees. His black eyes seemed to flicker with unreadable emotion. Lyra spotted him too. "He comes often," she said. "He watches, but he does not interfere. Perhaps he warns, or perhaps he waits." Ethan frowned. "Should we confront him?" Lyra shook her head. "No. Observation is useful. Interference could complicate matters." Ethan nodded, though the uneasy feeling in his chest remained. By midweek, the attackers made their move. It began with a quiet alarm. Ethan was in the dorm when the lights flickered. Lyra's hand was on his shoulder instantly. "Stay close," she whispered. Outside, smoke and flashes of energy lit up the courtyard. Students scattered, but Ethan and Lyra moved as one. He felt the lessons from the past week flow through him. Balance, anticipation, coordination. Two attackers approached from opposite directions. Ethan blocked one with his makeshift weapon while Lyra disarmed the second with a quick, precise strike. "You are learning fast," she said, striking again. "Keep your focus. Ethan managed to push the attacker back, giving Lyra the opening to incapacitate him. He felt a rush of exhilaration. This was real. This was dangerous. And he was not frozen. When the attackers finally retreated, the academy security sealed the perimeter. Students cheered quietly, but Ethan and Lyra didn't stop moving until they ensured everyone was safe. Later, as they caught their breath in the dorm, Ethan looked at Lyra. "We did it." "Yes," she said, breathing evenly. "But this is only the beginning. They will test us again." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm ready for the next test. As long as I'm standing with you." Lyra's golden eyes softened. "Then we endure. Together." For the first time, Ethan truly felt the power of their bond. It wasn't just protection or claiming. It was trust, teamwork, and shared courage. Together, they had survived danger and proved that humans could rise to challenges even the most advanced alien species might not expect. And for Ethan, that feeling was stronger than fear. The academy was quiet in the early morning. The sun had barely touched the horizon, casting soft orange light across the campus. Ethan stood near the dorm window, watching the empty courtyard below. He could still feel the rush from the last attack, his muscles tense from fighting. Lyra appeared behind him, her golden eyes calm but alert. "Today we must act," she said. Ethan turned. "Act? What do you mean?" Lyra held up a small device that projected a holographic map. "The enemy moves tonight. They intend to strike the central energy core. If they succeed, it will disable the academy and leave all students vulnerable." Ethan's stomach tightened. "So we stop them." Lyra nodded. "Together, you will not run. You will not hesitate. We fight as one." Ethan swallowed hard. This was no longer a test. It was real danger, and he was right in the middle. But when he looked at Lyra, standing tall and fearless, he felt a strange surge of confidence. He could do this. The preparations began immediately. Ethan and Lyra moved through the academy, setting traps and alerting security teams. Ethan took charge of monitoring energy flows and alarm systems, using his human creativity to anticipate the attackers' paths. "Humans think differently," Lyra said as she observed him. "You see patterns we would not. That is why you are valuable." Ethan smiled faintly. "Thanks, I just try to pay attention." Lyra's eyes softened. "It is more than attention. It is insight." They worked tirelessly, coordinating with students from multiple species. Each alien brought unique skills. Some could see in infrared, others had strength far beyond human limits. But Lyra trusted Ethan to watch gaps they might miss. And he did. Every calculation, every adjustment made a difference. As night fell, a strange tension filled the air. The sky was clear, but distant lights flickered, signs of the approaching attackers. Ethan and Lyra took positions near the central energy core, hidden by the shadows of the tall buildings. "They are coming," Lyra whispered. "Stay close." Ethan nodded, gripping his improvised staff. "I'm ready." The first wave arrived silently, moving with precision and intent. Ethan felt fear, but it was sharpened into focus. He recalled everything Lyra had taught him. The bonding duel, the practice strikes, the last attack, and moved instinctively. A figure darted toward the core. Ethan intercepted, pushing it back with his staff while Lyra disarmed another attacker with fluid skill. Sparks flew as weapons clashed, and the night was filled with shouts and the hum of energy devices. "You are strong," Lyra said, striking another enemy. "Do not falter." Ethan nodded, feeling a rhythm form between them. They moved as a single unit, covering each other, anticipating each other's next moves. The attackers were skilled, but Ethan's human unpredictability gave them an edge. He noticed a small gap in their formation and shouted, "Lyra, left flank." She turned, acknowledging him with a swift nod. Together they struck, breaking the line and forcing the enemies to retreat temporarily. Ethan's heart raced. This was dangerous, exhausting, and terrifying, but he wasn't afraid anymore. Not when he had Lyra at his side. After regrouping, the attackers launched a final attempt, using a massive energy pulse aimed directly at the Academy's shields. Ethan and Lyra were in the center, near the energy core. "You must focus," Lyra said firmly. "I will handle the main force. You protect the control nodes." Ethan's hands shook slightly as he activated the emergency barriers. Sparks flew. Alarms blared, but his mind stayed clear. He remembered Lyra's words. Anticipate. Don't react. Using quick calculations, he rerouted the energy flows, strengthening the shields just in time. A massive pulse hit the barrier, and the energy rebounded, knocking attackers back. The crowd of students watching from safe zones cheered quietly. Ethan felt a mix of relief and pride. The enemy, realizing their attack had failed, began to retreat. Lyra moved swiftly, disabling their remaining weapons with precise strikes. Ethan followed, blocking the paths and ensuring no one got through. When the last attacker fell, silence returned. Smoke and sparks filled the air, but the Academy was safe. Lyra turned to Ethan, her golden eyes shining with pride. "You did well. You did not run. You did not falter. You fought with me." Ethan breathed heavily. "We fought together. That's the difference." Lyra's lips curved in a small smile. "Perhaps you are more than I expected. Humans are adaptable." Ethan felt warmth spread through his chest. For the first time, he understood what being claimed truly meant. It wasn't about ownership. It was about trust, courage, and shared responsibility. After the battle, the Academy held a ceremony to honor the students who had defended it. Ethan and Lyra were called to the front. Other students of different species stood respectfully, some clapping, others bowing slightly. "You see," Lyra whispered, "humans have strength in ways we sometimes overlook." Ethan nodded, feeling proud. "And you see more than I expected too." On stage, the principal addressed the crowd. "Today we witnessed courage, unity, and loyalty. Students from all worlds working together have proven that peace and strength can coexist, and a human and a Cathari have shown us that bonds, no matter how unexpected, can inspire greatness." The crowd erupted into applause. Ethan glanced at Lyra, and she gave him a brief nod. He could see the pride in her eyes. Later, back in their dorm, Ethan finally allowed himself to relax. Lyra was sharpening her blade, but there was no tension in her movements tonight. "You know," Ethan said, leaning back on the bed, "I never thought being claimed would feel good." Lyra looked up, tilting her head. "Good?" "Yes," he said, smiling faintly. "It means someone trusts you, someone believes in you." "I get it now." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "That is the purpose. To honor, protect, and grow, together. You have learned quickly." Ethan chuckled softly. "Maybe humans have something special after all." Lyra's golden eyes softened. "You proved it tonight. Not by strength alone, but by courage and thinking in ways we could not. That is why humans endure." Ethan felt a surge of pride. "So, you're saying I passed?" Lyra's smile widened just a fraction. "You did, and I would choose you again." Ethan laughed. "Well, I can't say I disagree." For the first time, everything felt balanced. Danger, fear, and uncertainty had been replaced with confidence, trust, and respect. Ethan understood that being claimed was not a limitation. It was a partnership. Together, he and Lyra had not only survived danger, they had shown that humans could rise to challenges, adapt, and prove themselves among the stars. The next morning, campus life returned to normal. Students walked through the halls, laughed in the dining areas, and practiced new skills. But the story of Ethan and Lyra's teamwork spread quickly. Other students looked at humans differently now, realizing that adaptability, creativity, and courage were powerful weapons in their own right. Ethan walked through the hall holding his datapad when Lyra fell in step beside him. "You are human," she said. "But tonight you were more than that. You were a partner, an equal. That is rare. Ethan smiled. Thanks. I think maybe we make a pretty good team. Lyra's golden eyes glimmered. Yes. And together we will face whatever comes next. For Ethan, that was enough. The bond they shared had survived real danger, and it had made him stronger, braver, and proud to be human. As they walked through the sunlit campus, Ethan realized that this was only the beginning of a journey filled with challenges, adventures, and discoveries. And he knew without a doubt that standing beside Lyra was the right place to be.